Can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
So a couple times before now, and so Mr. Halesko, are we live today?
Yes, we are live right now. There's about a 10 to 15 second delay.
Okay. So a couple times throughout the first half hour from 6:30 to 7, because it really will be a quick meeting except for questions at the end when we're talking. I'll remind people that they can call in who are watching. And Debbie is here today to take their calls, and then she'll bring me the questions in at the end that people might have about the budget or anything in the school district. This is a test for how we will do the budget hearing. So we are missing Gabby and Eric.
Eric's coming in right now.
Patrick, where is it streaming to?
Vimeo.
Okay.
It's on the district webpage. Typically, when you would click to go to Vimeo to see all of the videos, there's a specific, very similar, Zach, to what you shared, that article. Very similar in the connections, a specific link that feeds to Vimeo.
Perfect.
And here comes Gabby. Okay, Mr. Whitetail, we're all here.
All right, Mr. Kennedy, if you want to take us through.
Yep, we're on 3.3. Just need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Zach, and a second.
Second.
All right, Krista, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And just need a motion to return to the public session.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And we will stand for the pledge to the flag when everyone's ready.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Like we were.
I have new respect for all those Zoom people that sing music and do instruments on these meetings.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
amazing, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. Today, someone sent me, so it's Channel 7 with that Linda Pellegrino who does I think it's Buffalo Live or something. One of our teachers at Drake sent a video to them and they played it on Channel 7. You can see it. I'll try and send you the link. And they were, each child like did the weather for the day. And the one was saying it was going to snow, and so her brother was there throwing cotton balls for snow. It was the cutest thing. I'll send you the link. They were really getting creative on how to do the weather of the day. So welcome everybody to our board meeting today, where we will be taking care of some consent agenda as well as personnel items. We will be adopting the budget and answering any questions you have. The district clerk is here today, and if you have a question, you can call in and give it to her, and then she'll bring it in to me for the board to answer. The number is 807-3500. So it is my office number. So if you are looking for that online, it's 807-3500. I'll say that again before we start any consent, but we're going to start today with a brief overview of the budget and how we ended up here. We did do this later, and as you know, with all the COVID-19 and the state of emergency that all areas are under, the budget vote would have been taken place already yesterday, actually, when they had our budget vote, but it's been delayed until June 9th, and it has to be done through absentee ballot. So the reason that we're adopting the budget today is that there was guidance from Albany that because of pending budget cuts in the future, you might want to wait for what your 2021 school budget looked like. Here in North Tonawanda, you're going to hear in a minute that the board was being fiscally responsible to not make a lot of cuts this year, spend a little bit more out of reserve, and also for taxpayers to not increase the school tax levy at all. So it'll be a 0 increase. And then there's a couple other propositions that we'll go into in a minute. Our presenter of this is our business official, Mr. Anthony Montoro, and he will share his screen with us and walk us through what the basic numbers look like. And for more detail, we invite you back on June 2nd at 6 o'clock, where we will have our budget hearing, and we'll also have the members running for school board speak to you, so you can hear their platform on why they're running. So Mr. Montoro, whenever you're ready.
One issue I'm having right now with the screen share is it is disabled, I think, at this point. I did send you a file, Mr. Halesko, though, so I don't know if you could bring that up.
Did you just send me, or when did you send it, Tony?
I did through the chat.
Yeah, I can bring it up, Mr. Montoro, but it's not going to, let's see, hold on.
Yeah, because we're disabled on the screen share. So in the meantime, while Mr. Halesko is taking a look at the technical aspects of this, so in terms of news and what has changed since the last meeting, there have been no additional cuts to state aid. So this year we're looking at flat aid from 1920 to 2021. So based on that knowledge from a few months ago, due to the COVID situation, we've made upwards of about $1 million in cuts to the budget to bring it to a point where we can go forward with a 0% tax levy. I think one of the, yes, and I do not have control of that. So Mr. Lesko, I guess in terms of moving the screen, we could leave it right there. So the story of aid is flat aid, all the scenarios across. And we did talk about this on April 22nd. And we're going to focus on the first column now in terms of the levy increase. So if you look at that row highlighted in green, the board would like to move forward with a 0% tax levy increase. If you continue to scroll down, Mr. Halesko, you could see in the row in green or orange, we are forecasting the decrease in state aid from the governor's initial proposal in January, which essentially was that was the increase in state aid we were looking at, which was almost about a $500,000, which would have been very nice. But unfortunately, when that aid went away, as you scroll down, Mr. Lesko, you could see that we made, not quite $1 million in cuts. I feel like there are some other cuts structurally that will be coming further in this school year as we try to squeeze and tighten our belt. But we made about $1 million in cuts due to the lack of state aid and aid staying flat. We also plan on using some reserves this year and appropriating additional fund balance to get us to a 0 budget gap. So if you scroll down, really the net effect on this in terms of the tax levy and that rate, it's going to stay flat. Now, the actual rate over the summer could decrease depending on the assessments. If you look at the assessments that I'm basing these assumptions on, it's actually highlighted above that small chart there where it shows the different scenarios and the increase per the $100,000 house or $150,000 household. So that $22.79 per $1,000 assessed value might actually decrease over the summer dependent on assessments. Typically, what I've seen over the last few years is that assessment value has trended upward. So people might even see a little bit more relief beyond the 0% tax levy increase. Now, in lieu of the tax levy increase, we are utilizing some reserves if that is needed. We could have a situation where through the energy performance project, which is a big structural piece of this budget, through energy savings, through more efficiencies, we might be able to tighten our belt. We might be able to keep costs under our projected revenues. Even if there are further cuts throughout the year, we might find some other structural efficiencies throughout the year even in this situation where we may have to teach differently. So we're really going to, try to do our best to actually maybe not have to spend those reserves if our revenues do stay ahead of our expenditures. The other planned use of reserves this year for the purchase of the buses, which is very important. That's proposition number 2. Again, that has further assisted us in keeping that tax levy low. So we were planning on using that about $1.2 million in savings from prior years to finance that purchase also. So I think it's a very responsible budget. I think it's a budget where we're already looking to cut costs. And I think that mindset is just going to help us with the situation that we're dealing with potentially in 2021. Any questions?
I'll just remind anyone who's watching that if they have a question related to the budget or anything else, they can call that 807-3500 number, and our clerk can take that question. This chart that was up showed that there were different scenarios, but the board is basically going to be adopting a 0 budget increase. And while there was just a few new initiatives that we took out to help with that close to $1 million cutting as far as a second SRO this coming school year, the rest of it we've done through some takebacks from BOCES as well as trimming our BOCES budget quite a bit. So that's kind of a catch-22 because we get some aid back on those things, but we also know that we can control the cost better when they're in-house. So we'll be moving in that direction. A big savings is going to come through special ed by offering more of those programs in-house than going out. So we'll be under the first column only here for anyone who's watching, and at the end, those are where the dashes are for the 0. So there'll be no increase. It'll all just stay flat here. There won't be these increases that go over in the second, third, and fourth column. Do any board members or anyone have any questions who are currently here?
I just have a quick question about the reserve
Mhm.
funds that we're using.
Yes.
Separate from the bus reserve, the 355 that we're projecting. I know in the past you've said that the state is saying that we have too much money in our reserve account. So what do they usually suggest? Or how much over are we?
So one thing that I will recommend, and this will be when we convene on our next audit committee, is that we do work on a detailed reserve plan. So it will be basically the task of that committee as an audit and finance committee to really look at our reserves and make a justification for why those reserves are funded at their level. So there could be actions taken in the future by the board based on the recommendations of that committee after we analyze those reserves that we do have right now. And I think the state controller's office has been very willing to engage with boards if you make a justification as to why your reserves are funded and the level they're funded at. So I think that analysis and that reserve plan that we develop, I'm planning on doing that this summer.
But the general rule is not to have more than 4%.
So if you're talking about the 4%, that is the unassigned fund balance. So that's actually fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be the piece that they would focus on. And we are slightly above the 4%. I think right now, given the economics, that's probably good because you have more flexibility with that unassigned fund balance on the next year, just in case you spend some of your appropriated fund balance. So we're appropriating about $5 million. So the hope is this year that, again, even though revenues are flattened, we could still stay ahead of our expenses and not, spend beyond and have to tap into reserves and have to spend some appropriated fund balance. So that's where that interplay between unassigned and assigned kind of happens is, as you spend appropriated fund balance, your assigned fund balance is going to be less than next year. So you just got to really monitor that.
And for the person watching, assigned can be through You're gonna start a reserve to like have a retirement, reserve that you could assign it to, or it's for a program to balance the budget because you didn't want to raise taxes. So that becomes part of the assigned, need for next year so that you don't have to raise that. So when you go through the audit committee, they'll kind of break that out. But we've always been right around 4%. We're not terribly above it, but in talking with the other Niagara County superintendents, where our goal is to say, build your fund balance, because who knows what's coming. And if you don't have it, you're going to be, in a slash and burn scenario, which none of us want to be into. So it's worth a little slap on the hand to be over in the coming year, because otherwise your programs will suffer. But we're right. For the last 9 years, we've hovered right around that mark. We're not terribly above it or below it.
Right. And I think, again, looking at those reserves over the summer, we may see there's reserves that we want to utilize that we can move out of unassigned to reserves for specific spends. There's the sub in the retirement reserves. There's the sub account, the TRS, that the board could take action on, because it is expected that TRS is going to increase over the next couple of years. So there's things that we can do.
That'll be a good suggestion. I've been wanting that one, and I think we're going to need it.
Right. So structurally, there's things we could do, in the scope of a long-term plan. And then once you have it in writing, I think the state controller could see, you're being very diligent and really thoughtful in why you've funded reserves in the manner that you fund them. It's in a plan, and then I think that will be very helpful. So that's something that we need to put on record.
Did we answer your question? Did we answer your question, Erica?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Make sure we do, because it's easy for us to get lost in the lingo. Other questions about the budget?
So a couple other items I was going to share in terms of a screen is just the newsletter has a lot of this narrative in there. I think it tells a story. Obviously, we'll get into this more next week with the hearing. And the other pieces that you're voting on or approving tonight is the property tax report card, which was attached to that will get submitted to the state right after this meeting. And the budget notice, which is also in the newsletter. So the budget notice kind of tells a story of the 0% increase on the taxes and what the propositions and the reserves are. So it's all in there.
Right. So if there's not any other questions directed on that, Matthew, we'd be at 7.2 where they budget approval.
Did we have any questions from the public on Debbie's line at all on the budget before we move forward, before we vote on it?
No, I got no calls yet.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Just wanted to double check. All right. So we're at 7.2. It is recommended the Board of Education approves the 2021 school budget in the amount of $81,016,940.00 and the accompanied property tax report card as presented. I need a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
All right. And a second.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
All right, so it looks like we're going to jump right into our agenda order. So we're at 8.1, and it's actually on the next page.
And
It is recommended.
just a reminder before Mr. Kennedy starts, because it'll go fast, that if anyone watching wants to call in, you can still call in with other questions for the board at 807-3500.
All right, 8.1, it is recommended the Board of Education approves the agenda order as presented. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes? All right, not seeing any, Ollie will make the motion, so we just need a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And we're going to go to 9.10 on page 7. All right, and that's right at the top. It is recommended the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Just need a motion.
So moved.
All right, in a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. And then we are right below it at 10.1. It is recommended the Board of Education approves the personnel agenda as presented. Or are there any additions, deletions, or changes? All right, not seeing any. I just need a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, and a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, and we're going to go to page 10, and that will be 11.12. And that's in the middle of the page there. It is recommended the Board of Education approves all personnel items in section 11 as presented. I will make the motion. We just need a second.
Second.
All right, Eric, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, Mr. Whitesill, I think this is you. It's 12.1.
Yes, okay. So the flexible benefit plan amendment. So we have a plan, and we've increased it over the years actually, where if they get for health and wellness and they get their blood test work done and they do a body mass and that type of stuff, they can earn up to $200 to $300 depending on the union contract, additional for flexible spending towards medications and that type of stuff. And one of the things that came up in the recent months is during retirement, that while they can legally use a flexible benefit plan after they retire, there has to be language that basically allows that to happen. So we worked with the plan and the unions to sort of say, if they had money, we're obviously not going to deposit any more after they retire, but they have up to 5 years to spend what they had earned if they hadn't spent it. So that's what these amendments did. And there's two, because there's a confidential managerial one and there's a teacher's one that follows it. So they're both those are the amendments. And the start dates is a little bit different on each one because of when the contracts were originally amended. So any other questions on that? Okay, so then we need a motion to approve the flexible benefit plans for the NTUT and confidential managerial as presented.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Right. Education of students in temporary housing. This is one of those revisions from the state that we needed to update our policy to just keep it current. We are responsible for students who maybe have to relocate and are considered homeless and they're in temporary housing. Let's say they have to leave North Tonawanda for conditions that happen due to a tragedy such as fire or something along those lines, or if they are fleeing a unsafe household, we are still on the education plan for them, and we are their school district of record until they find new housing. So a lot of these changed the words from may to must and that type of thing, which isn't uncommon to see come down after we've had a few policy years go by and people challenge it. So these were nothing that we found controversial, and they really are required by the state. Any questions on those? Okay, I need a motion to approve then policy 7131, education of students in temporary housing as presented.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, motion
Parent policy 8260 is another one on Title I parent involvement revision. This is an interesting one I have a history with because my first job at central office was to do the titles, Title I, Title II, Title IV, which now is under Mr. Tambroni. And what we used to be able to do 12 years ago is light years away from that now. And this is a much more detailed, much more specific. And I remember coming into the office 12, 14 years ago and trying to make ends meet out of what was left there and trying to figure it out. So we've gone through a lot of desk audits with Title I specifically, and we've gotten a lot better at how we spend that money for those schools that qualify and how the services can be provided. A big piece of it is trying to involve the parents. So in addition to reading nights, math nights, and the things that we're doing, we're also part of our family support center and getting parents involved and helping them that we've been able to do. So we're really growing that connection with parents over this. And this language is recommended by the state so that everybody's on the same page. So again, there was a lot of may and must changes along the way. Nothing that we're not doing, but it will keep us current with what the current practice is across the state with Title I, which is, in my opinion, over the last 14 years, way better than it was 14 years ago. So they're making the right thing. The problem is there's less and less money in it. We get less and less money, but we are getting a lot more support and direction from the state. I will say over the last 2-3 years, but let's hope that they keep funding it because it does do a lot of good programs. Any questions? All right, I need a motion then to adopt changes to policy 8260 and Title I parent involvement as presented.
So moved, please.
And second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, similar to the other two, this was some wording changes added to our children in foster care and how they are tracked and treated and reported basically. And there's not a lot in there that we changed at all. It was all boilerplate changes. Questions on foster care? Okay, not seeing any. I need a motion to adopt the changes to policy 7135, education of students in foster care as presented.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, so I don't know if Mr. Hawesko, you got the attachment for the next one for the certificate, but our board president, Matthew Kennedy, and I know that we've had other board members in the past do this, get recognized by NYSBA for their work that they've been doing at conferences and attending classes. And so we got the notification and the certificate that Mr. Kennedy did the required work this year to again be recognized by NYSBA. And we really do appreciate everything that Matthew's been doing for us, from keeping us up to date with technology in his personal life to getting the board really connected with New York State school boards and you know, kind of being in line with what everyone's doing and what the current trend is, because as we can see, and the more you get into school board life, it really is a lot of politicking as far as, there it is, Board of Achievement Award to Matthew Kennedy. So very good. Totaling up to 75 points for 2020. So very good. It is a lot of advocacy, you know, what board members do. And when we're going through these hard times now and they sort of get bills and laws passed that affect funding, it takes us a year, 2, 3. I've been through one that's taken us almost 10 years to try and get back to where we should have been when they take our money away from education. So we appreciate the work that they do, and I am very grateful for Matthew to continue that work for us. So congratulations, Mr. Kennedy.
Everyone.
All right, board goals. I don't know if that can open up in our Zoom one, but we've been working towards it. And the other thing that the board's going to be looking at is we had Vision 2020, which is here, and now we're going to look at doing a NT 25 so that we're ready and we're, you know, making strive towards future goals in the district. I had a plan to get that started early on in September, but I think my goal now will be to open school in September. And then if that goes smooth, we'll plan for October to get staff together to do our long range goals. But board members, community members, as well as parents are all going to be welcome and invited to that. And in the meantime, the school board sets goals every summer with me at a retreat, and these were the goals. So we've been working on community engagement. And I have to say that I'm, you know, as I went kicking and screaming, but I'm just like the Facebook Live star here in NT. So thank you for pushing me into that. They look forward to it. We get phone calls. When is he going on? Who's the special guest going to be? There's little presents dropped at the door Mr. Hawesko finds in the morning. So people are really appreciating that. So we're going to continue to engage the community and use social media in a number of ways And I know that that makes Mr. Halesko pull his hair out to make sure everything works smoothly. So I appreciate everything he does behind the scenes for that. So we're in the middle of a thought exchange when all this happened on budget. So we are into that through a fiscal year of January. So I will work with them. They have been emailing Mr. Halesko and myself about how they may help us reopen schools as well through some survey data that they're researching now in other countries as well where it's being used. So since we have access to it, when we get those information webinars, I'll share that with you. And I think we might be able to do a couple things through Thought Exchange for the community. It is a cost though, so it is always something that the board looks at, should we continue to use or not. If the general community and school community doesn't use it more, it may go away. So we'll try to keep promoting that. Consider the Niagara Wheatfield Tribune. So we just had a lot of stuff come up because even that the papers that start seem to go under, and we have, what's the new way? How can we do it? So we are looking to set things up and you get more kind of as a positive attitude out. I wonder though if the money might not be better spent in using our BOCES person, Lisa Bielmeyer, who does our NT Spirit that gets mailed to every household. If instead of doing 3 or 4 a year, if we up that to 5 or 6 and just put the news about the school district in it to get it out. Because then we do share it on Facebook and we do share it on the webpage as in addition to mailing that out. So do a little cost comparison on that because I don't know how many people are reading newspapers anymore. I mean, even if we did do that, I think there's a new way to reach them. So we need to probably relook at that. Consider having a survey at events, asking participants how they heard about events from first Wednesday of every month. So those are some ideas when we get school back up and running. I know Mr. Halesko is still working on also sending texts to families instead of just the global calls. So there's a lot of things we can do in the next coming months to update that.
We actually received all of that information, Mr. Waitilla, right as all of this COVID started to take off.
So yeah, so we can plan for September and see what we can do and put something. I think if we talk about that this summer at our retreat, we can really break the mold on that and go maybe outside the box. Now that I'm Mr. Social Media, I'm great for that. More positive press releases, again, how we do that. And I know that there's a suggestion to maybe also use a little bit more of YouTube. And I know that always makes Mr. Halesko cringe a little bit because of keeping that safe, but we are researching that. Safe environment for all. They will be looking at the safety plans this summer because we are currently right now doing those for the next school year, updating staff phone numbers as well as new additions and trainings that will be offered for safety. New security measures with technology and budgeting. So one of the things that you'll notice is now that the ad building does have a buzzer on it when you come back. We do have that, the security cameras in for that. We have a drop box. So we're not trying to keep people out and not be an open door policy, but we're also trying to keep people safe and have appointments and have people in the building who should be here. So we'll work on that. We were on our way to a second SRO. And the budget kind of, fell out from underneath us, but I know that we'll continue to leave that on there because I think that's very important throughout the district to keep that going. The bus stop cameras kind of have died across from right now, but it's still out there. That's something that depends on your community and how often they feel that that's needed. And then there's a lot of questions about where the fines went and if they were really held up at the New York State level. So some of that, when we get more information, we can still come back and visit. And then through student support, right as we were doing all this, I do have a report on all the scholarships and award programs and applications that were sent out for different types of programs for student support using the Young Scholars and Safe Schools and anti-bullying. We still continue to talk with the city. We thank them for handing out our lunches during this time of closure, and we're working with them for a summer lunch program. But this was really about getting kids to realize all the opportunities that they have out there and making sure that happens. A big piece of this is going to be through some programming that the board heard about, where we're going to be doing this, you know, Lift and Rise program with some of our most needy kids. And so while, you know, we're hitting 50 or 100 kids, it's still going to be a lot more opportunity and get them a path to see that there is another choice, basically, for those kids. We have a lot of kids who go to college, and that's great, but we have a lot of kids that aren't sure what they should do. And so we hope to provide those opportunities and show them a funding path as well as scholarship path to get what they want. Krista?
This is different than the Mike and Mike proposed program, isn't it? Or does it?
This one, when we had it as a board goal, it was making sure that kids knew that there are these different opportunities out there across the state and the country. I think what I'm hearing from Elizabeth and Mike, who are developing these other programs, that's really going to be sort of a big piece of the Mike and Mike program, that these kids see a path to a future in these new programs, not just get them through high school and help them through it, but what to do with it and why they want to get through high school. So they're building some of this in to meet the kids who need to see it, because the kids who are already from the families who are promoting college are seeking scholarships and you know, going on college tours and that. We have a large population in North Tonawanda Small City School District. I'd say 15 to 20% of each graduating class that just go out and get a job. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we want to make sure they know their options and how they can get some other things going too. So the Safe Schools and the City Anti-Bullying and Mentor Program were all sort of things to catch that net and cast it wider. And now we're going to incorporate that into that Rise and Lift too, so that they are there being actually like instructed on how to, you know, get the help they need.
Thank you.
All right, so that's the goals. Let me just see if Debbie's got anything for us. Okay, so Debbie said no calls today, so we'll hopefully get more information out on the webpage now that we did a test and this is working, Mr. Halesko? We didn't drop the feed, we didn't lose.
You just jinxed everything
Oh,
by saying
stop.
that. So no, we didn't. It's actually, I dare to say it seems to be working well. So I'm just gonna knock on wood on that front.
So we'll have to have Greg Fox put out there for June 2nd, you know, on Facebook and places and that, you know, and I'll do a global call maybe even, because the budget hearing is something that, you know, well, even when we had the budget hearing, who came, right? But we're hoping more people will watch you know, watch this afterwards when we put it out there and have questions to call at the budget hearing, because typically we know no matter what time we pick, if there's a conflict and you're all busy, but now you should all be sitting home, staying safe. And so there's nothing better to do than tune into the North Tonawanda City School Board meeting and educate yourself on that. So we hope that that happens in the future. So with no questions from the phone calls, we're at closing remarks from the Board of Education. You want me to, Matthew, you want to start us off, or do you want to start? Anybody have, Zach?
Yeah, whoever's got something.
Zach, anything?
Just that I hope that something comes to fruition with the diploma pickup like we've discussed, and that, you know, I want to give another special shout out to all of our district staff, teachers, administrators, for all the work that you guys have been doing, because quite honestly, you've kept the school year as normal as possible, which is a more than an achievement in itself, in the fact that this has been anything but a normal year. So as a board member, I think you guys need to be recognized for that.
It's been interesting, huh, Mr. Hulesko and Mr. Montaro?
That's an understatement.
Yeah, and the
And,
board itself has really been very supportive, and we couldn't do it without them.
Big time.
So yeah, it's been an interesting ride. I don't know what else I can say because there's just so much. There's just so much. But thank you. We really worked at it, and I really appreciate. I mean, the people who still want to help and volunteer, and if they can give out lunches, or if there's materials left, can we deliver them by bus? And those are all things that are coming, in June. So there's no shortage of people who are trying to help. So we appreciate it.
I'll piggyback off what Zach said. Absolutely kudos to everyone involved in North Tonawanda City Schools and the district. And I just want to also give accolades to the students that are engaging because it's been an incredible switch, and to the parents because it's got to be a real eye-opener to them to know that no matter what some people say, education is so much more than daycare, and it's incredibly important that we give support to our students and our teachers. So parents. So thanks to them too.
Thank you. Erica, anything?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. No, I mean, you guys have been doing a great job, and I look forward to what we can do for graduation. It's just a tough time. I wish we could do more, but like you said earlier, I guess I can understand both sides, but I'll leave it at that too.
Yeah. Yeah, so we are working for our seniors and our graduates, and I have to work within legal limits though, and follow the directive of the governor, and then work with the city for the mayor and the police chief. So there's a lot to come in the coming weeks on how we'll do and get the kids their diplomas. So stay tuned for that. But nothing will replace the real graduation. So, but we'll do our best to try and do that through the movie, and then some kind of face-to-face diploma. So stay tuned for more. Eric?
Yeah, just again, echoing what everybody else has been saying. In tough times, you see, a lot of different leaders handle things differently, and some for the good, some for the bad. And I don't know any, I've seen a couple things throughout Western New York, but I think your approach in doing the Facebook Lives every week and the robocalls and the pickups and everything, a lot of districts have done some of that, but I mean, I don't know many leaders that have gone on live conferences and fielded questions and chats, Yeah. So, and I know Tony and Pat and everybody at the admin building was a part of it. So you really put yourself out there, and like, to me, it was just above and beyond, and really showed that, how to lead in difficult times. There's really no playbook on how to run a school district during a global pandemic. And so I think the district has really stepped up, and I think all the teachers and admin deserve a lot of credit, and super proud to be a small part of it. And please get out and vote, and or fill your ballot out, I should say, not get out and vote. So please fill out your ballot, and yeah, here's to better times.
Yeah, thank you. It was funny because I teach a NU class for administrators, and I said, I can say I didn't have a class on how to run a school district during a pandemic, but now you can't, because I'm teaching you about it as we go through it. So I said, you can't use that when you graduate and you get a job. You're gonna have to say, oh yeah, he told me about that. So yeah, but no, that wasn't anything in any of my classes. What are you gonna do when you have no school? So yeah, funny. Colleen?
Just reiterate what everybody said. It is a crazy time, and we've had great families, great students, and great leaders. So it's a very difficult time, but made the best of it. You did the best for us.
Thank you. Gabby?
Similar sentiments. I've heard nothing but good things about what's been going on, and I think that speaks volumes. That I haven't heard one complaint. It's definitely an interesting first year on the school board. I'm just gonna be like, next year when everything runs smoothly, I'm gonna be like, what? I don't understand how this all works.
Yeah.
And also, I'm interested to see what the voter turnout is with the mail-in ballot. So hopefully it's great.
Yeah, we hope everyone takes the time. Remember, you're going to choose 2 of the 4 names for board members, and you're going to vote on the budget, which is a 0 increase. And you're going to vote then on allowing us to spend our savings that we plan to spend for the buses. And the last one then is that even though we're doing the LED lighting project to save energy costs for more money into program, if we get a yes vote on doing it, we get extra aid from the state, which is more money just into student programming. So I think it's a very positive ballot. And if you have questions about it, you can reach out to us, and I'll have Mr. Montaro talk to you. Now you can reach out to any of us here on the screen, board member, Mr. Montaro, myself, or Mr. Halesko. We'd be happy to explain to you in more detail. And June 2nd, we'll have the whole presentation. So there'll be a lot of detail on June 2nd too. So, and the Spirit's coming to every household. So, and all the details in the Spirit as well. So, as well as online. So please take a minute and redo your research, and we hope that you'll mail back the ballots. Remember though, don't wait until the 9th, because that's voting day, because we have to have them here on the 9th. So if you're going to get it counted, you really want to make sure you have it in the mailbox by June 5th or the 6th, the latest, which is Saturday, so that they get here by Tuesday the 9th. So don't think, I can drop it in the mailbox the 9th, because then if we get it on the 10th or 11th, we can't count it. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. So keep that in mind. And so when you get it, take a minute, fill it out, and the postage is going to be prepaid. So just drop it in any mailbox, or even leave it in your house mailbox, and the mailman will take it when he comes from your house. You don't even have to leave the house to vote. So you can't ask for much more better than that, right? You don't even have to leave the house. So please vote, and we look forward to doing that. Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, so ditto to everything that everyone's already said. I think that it's been a long budget season, more than usual. We start this process in really January, and kind of at where we ended up, I think it's very responsible. 0% increase to try to give some relief to the families out there. It's tough with people not working, so I think the board's done a really good job of the budget that we're at. So I just wanted to call that out. And like Eric said, don't go out and vote, stay in and vote. So definitely, make sure you get that ballot in. We'd appreciate you taking the time to do that. But that is all I have, unless we have anything else we can go to adjourn.
Okay. Stay safe, everybody. Stay lumberjack strong. Call us with your questions, please. Share this. It'll share as normal. And then on June 9th, we'll have the phones open as well, so you can do that. The other just thing for the board members as well as the community is that the virtual meeting that we do was given permission by the governor, and that's been extended through June 4th. So we really can't do virtual meetings anymore after June 4th unless he extends that. So our June 2nd board meeting is virtual because it's under directive. But if he doesn't extend it, our next meetings that we go back to will be live, which means they're in the boardroom, and we have to practice social distancing. So we'll have to limit the number, as much as we can, or move to a bigger venue to let more people in if that's going to be an issue, and ask people to wear masks. So just keep that in mind if we go to the next phase.
All right. I just need a motion to adjourn at 7:19.
So moved.
All right, in a second.
Second.
All right, Krista, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Great. Stay safe, everybody. Call me or email me if you have questions, and I'll send the Friday message and the evaluation, Matthew, to you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right, thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.